peppermint, sorrel, ginger, fever grass, or English. Peppermint, sorrel, ginger, fever grass, or English. Get it ready. Your morning tea just got hotter.
Ooh, honey child.
On the cold, hard truth. Bobo 89.1 and Cayman's #1 talk show are bringing you morning talk like no one else. Monday Rewind, Impact Wednesdays, Caribbean Connections, and much more. Don't miss a beat with what's happening.
So everything seems a little bit delayed this morning. Pages are not loading properly. Listen, the issue started last night, and it is what it is. It probably means that we will have, if I was planning on playing any videos today, that's not going to happen. So, as you guys know, technology makes all of this possible. It makes us possible to, tap into the radio stream from where I'm physically located, which is actually not at the radio station. And it makes it possible for us to go live in YouTube and Facebook. But when those things are not working, then we have a little bit of an issue. So I don't know how good the feed is going to be online today. So if you guys are experiencing any issues, even my streaming app is telling me that the connection is unstable, which I'm very, very much aware of. So I couldn't play an intro this morning at all or any of that stuff. So just bear with me. But the show must go on, as they say. So give me one quick second. I'm going to try to see if I can grab the Facebook feed for our WhatsApp viewers. So stand by. So entirely possible that you guys might experience some delays today. So I'd probably tell you that it doesn't make much sense to complain. Someone said to me this morning, maybe the landlords came and cut your fiber cable so that you couldn't discuss them this morning. So I can't load like a lot of my pages and stuff properly, which are required to do what I do. But hey, let's go with it. I'm going to work with the philosophy today that half a loaf of bread is better than no bread at all. And if you want to join the show, 936-2626, hey, the phone line still works. And I think Bobo is going to be solid. So for those of you who are listening in, minus the bells and whistles of like the intro show and that sort of the intro jingle and that sort of thing, I think that Bobo should be okay. So good morning, everybody. What's going on? I got my nice tall glass of ice water to kick off this beautiful morning. Fingers crossed, I'm hoping we can get this internet issue resolved today. And then I'm also hoping that we can get the new boards in and install this weekend. And that gives me a little bit more capability. So starting next week, we might be able to take your anonymous phone calls where you can call in. And then, if need be, I mean, I don't recommend it if it's not needed, but if you, need to have your voice disguised, we will have the capability to be able to do that. We just need to figure out how you tell me if you need to have that done. Like maybe you have to send a message in advance. I'm not really sure. Still got a few people here for sure. Miss Vernita. Good morning to Miss Morna. Hi, Stephen. Diamond Princess is here. Thank you, KK. Yes, KK says I'm blurry, and that's because of the internet. So KK, I was just saying that I'm not sure how well the show's going to go today because we're having some issues with our internet connection. It is very, very poor. Like I'm surprised that you can see me at all. That's how bad it is. So I'm not even I'm just like minimizing everything, closing out every single page, because literally I am not even, I think when I did a speed test this morning, I'm not even getting 5 megabytes on the upload, and we're supposed to be getting 500. So if that gives you any indication of what I'm dealing with here this morning, it's pretty dismal. But keep the link handy for the radio program. Just in the event that this connection is lost, you might have to switch over to radio. So I'm going to send you guys the link in the chat section for those of you who are online for the radio, because I'm aware that a lot of you do not have, you don't even have like physical radios. Neither did I until recently. I think Christmas Marlon bought one of these retro radios that has like the radio, the CD player, everything into one cassette deck. I'm like, who has cassettes anymore? I don't think anyone physically has any cassettes. Cassettes, how long did cassettes last for? I don't feel like they lasted quite as long as CDs, but I could be wrong. I was probably too young to really remember cassettes. I mean, I remember them a little bit, but yeah, so it's a tech thing. Anthony says that the YouTube feed looks okay, it blurs in and out, but mostly clear. Yeah, so Japanese car says KK, I can't listen. So I've just sent the link. You can always click on that and listen if push comes to shove. So if for some reason we lose the video feed, just click on the link that I've just sent you guys for Bobo 89.1 because they do have an online link. But I'm trying to keep everything to a minimal in this end. But just work with it. If I'm a little bit blurry, I would say. Just go with the flow. Oh gosh. Yes. Okay. All right, folks. Yes. Okay. Good morning to Gordon. Hi, Siobhan. Happy Friday. Richard, good morning to you. How many Japanese cars you guys think we have in Cayman roads? I feel like it's a lot. So a couple things that are trending this morning. I see Flo messaging me to say if I'm still having issues. So let me respond to this email. But I'm telling him, don't do anything to it. Like, don't cut it, because then I would have nothing at all. Right? So let me just see here. Yes, I'm still having issues. Okay, don't do anything that would cut it before 10 a.m. All right, so Flo is on it hopefully this morning. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's causing it. It's just like really, really crawling. You know, Marlon can't figure it out. He's like restarting modems, and we actually have two services and two modems just for redundancy. And whatever this is, it's actually impacting both. So I feel like it's probably one of those things where a technician's going to have to come out and go on the pole. Like, it's probably something with the line coming in, the lines coming in. That's the problem. So Michelle, good morning. Good morning to Robert. KK says half of the cars that are here from Japan. She's begging Flo, don't disturb. I know. When I sent out in the news group this morning, I was like, I'm not so sure that we're going to be having a show today. People were like legit crying, like, no, what am I going to do? And I said, well, take your, have your radio handy just in case. So one young lady responded that she is going to take her mom's radio to work just in case she can still listen. So good morning to Everton. Everton was in Facebook jail for 48 hours. Oh my gosh, what happened? He says, I just got out last night and I was so mad I couldn't comment on your show yesterday. It was a wonderful program. The only thing I could do was listen. Well, the good thing about being in Facebook jail, at least you can still access it at some level, which I think is a little bit of torture when you think about it, right? So Facebook puts you in jail. I think Andine was also in Facebook jail recently. So, she was in Facebook jail. She said for posts from 2017 and 2014, which means that maybe someone went back and reported her posts from all the way back then. I don't really know. I guess maybe Facebook could also be using bots to look for stuff. But anyway, they put her in Facebook jail for, was it 3 weeks, 2 weeks? Anyway, she was in jail for a couple weeks. So poor Andine. I'm like, what a mess. But yes, when they put you in Facebook jail, they still allow you to be able to view everything. So I think it's like a personal torture where they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to tease you to show you what you're missing, but you can't comment on anything. You can't message people normally as well. So they just like really, really shut you down. Whereas Morna said the voice is clear. Just close your eyes and listen, honey. Dean, good morning to you. KK says Facebook needs to chill out. Yeah, they have so many users, and users are always up to so much stuff that I don't even know. So Morna says that when she restarted her stream, it's okay. We'll keep an eye on it. Jonathan is wondering how he's not ended up in Facebook jail yet. Don't tempt fate, because it might happen. So who knows, right? Yes, who knows? I would say if you haven't been put in Facebook jail, just thank your lucky stars and don't say anything else about it. I've been in jail a couple times for Facebook, as you can well imagine, over the years. And I don't post too much on my personal page anymore. Like, I hardly have time for that, to be honest. So sometimes I get put in Facebook jail for CMR stuff, and it locks down my personal account, which is kind of crazy. But we have to be very careful with the page, because now that we're pushing 70,000 followers, we don't really want to jeopardize the page in any way. So most of the time I don't read your comments, so I'm not inclined to even comment, right? I don't, I just don't do it. Because sometimes when I see y'all talking foolishness, I'm just like, this person needs a virtual slap. Let me do it. So now I'm just like, pull back, don't do it. Big shout out to the X106.1 team. So let me tell you, they're having a few little issues this morning as well, not tech related, but unfortunately a sick child. Yeah, so I just want them to know that we are thinking about them. And let me just see here now. I should have asked for an update this morning to see how the baby's doing. But Blake's son is sick. He has, it looks like, pneumonia. Yeah, poor little thing. He's a little, I think he's like maybe 5 or 6. So yeah, so poor little thing, he's got pneumonia. So we didn't, in case you listen, I think some of you might tune in over there. That's why you would not have heard us over there this morning, because when you have kids that are sick, one parent's got to stay in the hospital. They only allow one parent. And normally it's the mom, because children, that's just how they are. They can love them a daddy. I mean, that could be his eyeball. And then when they get sick, it's like, no, mommy. It's like when the tears start flying, I'm like, why don't you go to dad right about now? No, mommy. I'm like, oh Lord. So you guys remember, was it last year or this year, that Gianna had to go to the hospital for a gastrointestinal thing. And of course, I was the one who had to stay with her, right? But after the first day and she started to feel a little bit better, child, she was like, can I go back to the hospital? I'm like, no, the hospital is not a vacation, because she got to sit there all day and like watch iPad. She's like, oh, I want to do that. And somebody's bringing her food. I was just like, no, that's not the life that we esteem to. So, Everton says that they said it was for trademark comment. What's a trademark comment? So they released me off of all liability, and Plus as making some comment that did not meet their satisfaction. I don't know what a trademark comment is. You can trademark a comment now? Good Lord. But yeah, Facebook will grab you for all sorts of stuff. For our news segment, we used to have a really nice intro, like graph, like video. And there was this news company in Bangladesh who kept, but I think it again was an automated bot thing, because the second we would stream live, it would claim rights to our intro, like just automatically. And it was like an intro that we had like paid for. We had designed the whole 9 yards. So I'm like, what's going on? We changed the music, like we did everything, and their bot kept grabbing it. And of course, these people have like a gazillion followers, literally. And unfortunately, there wasn't anything that we could do. And so we had to axe it. We had to stop using that particular intro, which was kind of annoying, to be honest. So, we tried reaching out to them. They don't respond to anybody. So it's just really, really frustrating. So, did you guys hear this bit of news that the world population is projected to reach 8 billion people in late 2022? Mm, mm, mm. So, this is coming from the latest United Nations projections that suggest the world's population could grow to around 8.5 billion by 2030 and 9.7 billion by 2050. That's crazy. The other thing is, India is going to take over from China in 2023 to be the world's most populous country. Let that sink in for a minute. Uh, some very interesting implications there, I think. But yeah, China. Maybe I wonder if China's one-child policy has played a part in this. I think I don't even know if they should have a one-child policy. I think they should have a only if you really, really want a child policy, because they do have a lot of people. And of course, the one-child policy has meant that they prefer to have males and females, and sometimes they will kill female babies just to try again. So by this November, the planet is going to become home to 8 billion people. And they have said, however, that population growth is not as rapid as it used to be, which is probably a good thing. In fact, it's the slowest rate since 1950. And they're saying that it's set to peak around 2080 at about 10.4 billion people. And it could happen sooner. Now, the other interesting thing about population growth is it is expanding unevenly. So, more than half of the population that we're going to see in the next 30 years is going to happen in just 8 countries. Whoa, right? So, those 8 countries are the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Egypt, Ethiopia, India, Nigeria, Pakistan, the Philippines, and Tanzania. So 8 countries is going to see half of the world's population growth in the next 30 years. I think those 8 countries need to focus on birth control options, to be quite frank and honest. Because, unmanaged population growth, the biggest thing is the environmental impact. It's horrible for the environment, but it also does other things in terms of like poverty and access to everything. Food, clean water, the works. Pretty crazy. So, good morning to Miss Faith. She says, "Have a beautiful day." Thank you so much. Um, no, Miss Dean, I haven't been in Facebook jail for a minute now, so I'm not about that life. I always tell you guys that I'm honestly not jail material. Yes, I've said this numerous times. Uh, the truth of the matter is, I'm too cute for jail. Take it or leave it. I don't care. I'm just telling you. And I don't know if I would want to be sitting there with some girl trying to braid my hair in prison. Prison life just doesn't sound very tempting. I like to get up and move when I want to move. I got to put my daughter to bed at night. I think the biggest thing about going to jail has got to be being away from your children. If you have children and you're like a parent that loves your kids, that's got to be it. Like, oh my God, just being able to hug your baby whenever you want to, So yeah, I'm just not about that life. Good morning. Jonathan says, when is government going to start handing out some of that money that they seize from Russia? Not possible, senor. No possible. Good morning to Miss Lucille. She says, love the color. Everton, good morning again. Oh, copyright if you post a song. Yeah, you've got to be very, very careful with music. Normally they don't put you in jail for music though. Like they'll just tell you that someone has made a copyright claim, and then you have the opportunity to object to the copyright claim. Now, the thing about copyright claims is you can claim fair use in the United States of America, especially. So you can claim like fair use and other things. So even with the Bangladesh people I was just telling you about, every single time that we would object to it, which was every single day, they would release it. But it's a pain because what happens is until they release it, no one can watch that segment of the video, or sometimes they take your video down entirely where it's hidden from the public. And they'll say, oh, this video is not available in 250 countries or whatever. So it can be very, very annoying. And, if it's happening every single day, it's just not even worth it. But we're like, we actually paid for this. Like, it's not, we have the copyrights to this. What on earth? But we were just fighting the machine. And at some point, I was like, you know what? The machine is going to win. I can't be bothered. Let's just use another intro. So we do have a new intro. I had ordered one from our designer. We haven't released it yet. So probably on Monday's news segment, you'll see the new news intro, because the one that we use right now with the flashing TV screen, Marlon keeps telling me, and I don't know about this or not, but hey, he's an IT person. I'm not really. But he keeps telling me that that flashing thing can actually give people, if you're subject to like seizures and stuff, it can actually cause you to have a seizure. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you got to stop using that because it's like the rapid flashing thing for some people in their eyes. It can bring a seizure on. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want somebody watching our news and have a seizure because of it. So that's one of the reasons why I do want to stop using that particular one. So we have a new one design, and then also it's very generic. Like it doesn't have any of the Cayman elements. So we have a new one customized. Let's see if anybody in India decides to grab it and claim copyright. So Ms. Charlene says Facebook needs to monitor or do something about narcissistic or toxic individuals using fake profiles happens way too often, focusing on jail time for certain dialogue. Yeah, I think the fake accounts thing is really, really hard for them to control as well. Sometimes if they get wind of it, they will, like, you have to report it, like this is a fake account. They will actually ask the person to provide documentation to prove that they are who they say they are. So it's challenging. Like I can't imagine. And listen, you can never get a hold of a real person at Facebook. There is no such thing. Like everything is like automated. And, I had a friend recently whose page was taken down and compromised because they got a notification saying, oh, you posted like a obscene video on your page. And so Facebook is going to do whatever. You need to click on this link. But that was actually a phishing thing. So those are like the spammers and the people who want you to click on that link for all the wrong reasons. It wasn't legitimately Facebook. And then once they take over your account, that's it. Let me give y'all a tip here. This is really, really important. Because I'm normally pretty good with this stuff, but they almost caught me the other day with their Instagram account, because they send you an email and they're like, oh, this photo is copyrighted, and so Facebook is going to take down your account if you don't click on this and respond right away, kind of thing. But when I looked at the photo, I was like, how can this photo be copyrighted when we took the freaking photo? You gotta think now, because they'd be trying to fool you. And so, but of course, they want you to click on it, claiming that, you're going to be getting in contact with Meta to make sure your account isn't taken down. The thing that saved me the other day, because they kind of had me fooled, the thing that actually saved me is what they call two-factor authentication. So it's 2FA. And what that means is, in order for someone to access your account, they need more than just your password. And this is smart no matter who you are. Right? So we all have passwords. A lot of us use Keyman123. Somebody's going to hack into your stuff, right? I try to use software that generates passwords for me so that it's much harder. I mean, nothing I would dare say with a good computer and enough time is probably impossible, but they create codes that are like really, really long, multiple characters and all kind of stuff, right? So it actually is a password generator, and they even do like hexadecimal like you can tell it up to 16 characters or more, and it's almost like CIA level encoding. So it's going to take a lot for somebody to get into your account. But beyond a really secure password, what you want to make sure that you have in place is two-factor. Because two-factor means that if someone logs into your account, say from an unknown location, an unknown IP address, or they're trying to change your password or whatever, in order for any of that to happen, you need to authorize it in a second method. That's why it's called two-factor. So not just the password, but you can do it by, they'll do SMN messages. It'll say, hey, someone's trying to do this to your account. Is that you? They might email you. The method that I use for a lot of my accounts to be able to get in is I actually use a secondary code generator, right? So it's like an authenticator app. And then it gives me a code for all of my accounts that I have connected to it. And the codes literally only last for maybe 15 seconds. So unless that person has your physical phone and they're in that app, they're not going to be able to get that code because it constantly changes. And, you have to almost do it in real time to be able to get access to it. Look it up, folks, because there's a number of different ways that you can utilize two-factor. So like for my Facebook account, for example, if someone logs in from somewhere else, I do get an immediate notification on my phone that, hey, this unusual IP address at this location is trying to log in. Is this you? And then I need to authorize it from my phone. And if it isn't me, I'm going to say, nope, that's not me. And they're going to lock that person out. So do your best. I mean, we all have these accounts and stuff that we need to keep secure. There's very little you can do about people cloning your accounts. Somebody said S&M messages. Did I said S&M? Y'all are so funny. No, SMS messages. They're like, what the hell are S&M messages? And they sent me this little emoji of like two dogs. Well, one dog kind of patting the other one on the bum over its lap. Like S&M messages. Y'all know what I meant. SMS. That's what it is, right? SMS, not S&M. Y'all are just too much. Oh my God. Freudian slip, perhaps. Maybe I'm looking for some of y'all to send me some S&M messages. Woo! Amelia says, good morning, Miss Sandra. You did say that. Freaky Friday. All right. Morning, Daisy. Maria's here. Miss Juanita, I've not seen you in a minute. She says that I need I got some bills to be paid ASAP. Don't forget me. If you hear anything. Jonathan says, well, they only got half of the world population vaccinated, so half the population will soon die. I just don't know which half it's going to be first. Well, death is, I guess, a natural part of what we're dealing with in the world around us. Some people will definitely live longer than others. But yeah, the world population is definitely growing in certain countries. And, unfortunately, it's always the poorest countries, if you notice that list, that probably should have some control. And they're the ones who just making babies, Joe. I'm always surprised that people don't get the connection, even in a place like Cayman, the connection between poverty and having children. It's a real connection. Like the worst thing you can do to keep yourself in poverty is to have children that you can't afford and to be uneducated. Yep. That's it. That's all you need. So when you're 16 years old and you're out there fornicating without any protection and no one is giving you the tools to know that, hey, you can fornicate as much as you want, just don't have kids, then, you start to have babies and you're going to remain in poverty. It is very, very unusual to break the cycle of poverty, especially once you start having children young. It's just one of those things, like children cost money. And when you're poor and you need to try to focus on your education and giving yourself certain opportunities to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, it's very, very difficult to do that. So yesterday I was at the smoothie shop getting myself my usual blueberry banana smoothie with milk and honey. That's my thing. And the young man said to me, he said, "Hi, Miss Sandra." And I said, "Hi." And when somebody wants to have a conversation, you can tell. And he said, "I want to talk to you." And I said, "Okay, I got a few minutes." And so he starts telling me how, he wants to get into the legal profession. And I said, "Oh, really?" And I said, "Okay, that's good. So what do you want to do? Like the legal profession is pretty broad. What is it that you'd like to do?" And he said, "Well, maybe one day I'd like to be a lawyer, but I've made a couple poor decisions." I said, "Oh, okay." I didn't ask how poor they were, but he says, "But I'm smarter now. I'm a little bit older, and I want to be a role model for other young men in the community, and I really want to try to, kind of get my life together and get back on the right track." And I said, "Well, that's good." And I said, "When people see you doing the right thing, they will take a chance on you. Um, you might have to humble yourself now. So you might have to go into an environment and say, 'Hey, I've made some mistakes in my life. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything or to lie, and I'm willing to own up to it. And I'm going to take responsibility. But I need a chance. I need somebody to take a chance on me, give me a little job, give me an opportunity to be back in that legal environment.' And then you start looking at your options in terms of, like, a couple years down the line, if you can afford to do law school, figure out a schedule and the whole nine yards." So I was encouraging him and I said, sometimes it's a little bit of good fortune, luck of the draw. And he's like, "Nope, he's relying on God to do it for him." And I said, "Okay." I said, "That's no problem. You got to have faith, but faith without works is a waste of time." So, but he seemed very, very positive. And I said, "Well, positivity is half the battle, I would say. Now you got to just figure out all the other logistics." So yesterday, I've spent quite a bit of time in court. Not quite a bit of time, actually. No one saw me because I was in the records area looking at a file. The one person that did see me was Darlene Oku. Y'all know that I just do not like that woman. I cannot lie. I don't like her. Her spirit, what Caymanians would say, my spirit just doesn't take to her. And my spirit just does not take to this woman. This is going to sound so bad, but I feel oozing out of her is such negative energy. Like, I honestly have never, the only conversation I've had with this woman, like one on one, is when she was trying to be a bit trifling with me. And one second for me, caller. This caller's gonna find this interesting. She tried to be a bit trifling with me after hearing that she lost, and she actually said something to me coming out of a courthouse, which I've never had a lawyer do this before. And so my response was like, "Whoa." I returned the favor with the same energy that I received it. And I said, "Don't ever talk to me like that again if you know what's good for you." And my lawyer's like, "Oh, you can't speak to her." I said, Hold on, brother. Pump the brakes. I'm minding my own business. She lost like an idiot, trying to bring a motion. The judge was like, "This motion doesn't even make any sense." And so she's upset and in her feelings, and she walks out of a courthouse and decides to have words to me like, "That was so unprofessional." But I was like, "Ooh, honey child, please don't try me today, because I might give him a reason to send me to jail for 24 hours. Like, seriously." And that's the only time I've ever spoken to this woman. But of course, she was the prosecutor in the one case that I have lost. But her energy beyond that, if I'm just totally being objective, her energy is so negative. Like, when she walks into space, I can even see the clerks and everybody else. Everybody just like gets tense. And I just look at them and their facial expressions. And my facial expression is not for me, child. So I was like, ugh. I was there reading, minding my own business, reading the file. And as soon as I saw her, my eyes rolled in my head. And I was just like, Jesus, give me strength today. I just do not like that woman. The energy is just negative. I feel like anytime she walks past me, I need to have one of those. What are the things that the priests walk around with? I'm not Catholic, so I don't know what it's called. The little thing where they're like dangling it. Or what's the other thing? Incense or something, where they try to remove the bad energy. Like, they go into corners and they put the smoke in the corner and they're like, "Yes, we need to do this to remove all the bad energy out of the place." That's the vibe I get from this woman, like, legitimately. Caller, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Sandra. I'm so happy to be able to get you on WhatsApp this morning.
Yes.
You know, like
I'm surprised you didn't know this because yes, it is a thing.
yes, well, yesterday I caught a little bit of your show when you were talking about the car, the hired car, and so on.
Oh yes.
Did you get an answer to that legal question?
What was the legal question? But let me update our listeners.
The
The car was returned
yes.
right after the show. I forgot. Thank you for reminding me because we came back in, but I know a lot of people had logged off and we weren't on radio. Folks, literally before the radio show was even over, we got the message that she just came and returned the car. So the man has his car back. Hallelujah.
How long after? How long after?
It was within the hour.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's good that the car has been returned. But I was discussing it with somebody. Like, they asked me, what are the legalities of it? You know, like if you take a car, you hire it, and then you don't take it back, is it automatically theft? So I looked that up. Basically, okay, the answer is in section 236 and 237 of the Penal Code. You might want to read it later for your listeners, but the total effect is as follows. As you know, Sandy, you studied law. Theft is when you appropriate a piece of property to your own use with the intention of permanently depriving the owner of that property. That is theft. So the question here is that if you take a matter in exactly what was the intent? Yeah. So in this case, section 237 is very clear. It says, well, look, if you take a piece of property lawfully in the first place, it can become theft later on if you retain it and deal with it in a manner which suggests that now you think you own it. So in other words, in the case yesterday, some of the relevant facts will be like, how long after have you continued retaining it? You gave a false address. You are not responding to phone messages. There is a point at which a call can be made that you've had this car more than a day since it was given to you. Clearly, you are treating it like it's yours. So, although the police were right in saying that initially it would be a civil case, it can cross the line to a point where it can become a criminal case, a case of theft by retention, if the facts indicate that now you are treating it as your own. Whether this line was crossed in this case, I'm not quite sure. I know that those facts that I have mentioned are relevant, but the real big relevant one is how long after. You know, like if you keep it for 1, 2, 3 days, they will say they can charge you with theft. So the police were not entirely correct. So I thought, well, let me chime in on that. It can become a criminal case depending on the facts.
Yeah, so Damien is asking you to repeat the section of the law again.
Okay, the Penal Code.
In the Penal Code, yes.
Yes, it is section 236 is the one you have to read first, but the one that is directly pertinent is 237. Actually, it is only 4 lines long. Let me read it. This is section 2371 of the Penal Code.
And this is a 2019 revision, yes?
This is the 20, I'm looking at it. No, it's 2021 revision.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it's changed, but I'm reading from the legislation website, which is the latest one. Okay. It is only 4 lines. It says, any assumption by a person of the rights of an owner amounts to an appropriation. And this includes where the person has come by the property, innocently or not, without stealing it. Any later assumption of a right to it by dealing with it as its owner. So basically saying, yes, even if you get it innocently initially, but if at some point you start treating it like it is yours, then you can be charged with appropriating it and therefore theft. But it depends on a number of factors. Yeah.
Yes. So I've just put it, I actually see a 2022 revision of the Penal Code here. I don't know what changed from the previous one, but I put that link in the comment section for those of you who are on social media. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No problem. Thanks very much, Sandy. Have a good show. I'll be listening.
Okay, my
Thank
dear.
you.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Good morning, caller. Happy Friday.
Same to you, ma'am. Since Mr. Samamba is online and you're online, gladly, you're online this morning. Since he went back to your yesterday's case,
Yes.
yes, I want the opinion of both of you
Okay.
on how the legalities will flow when persons, who are doing, no real address, and have intentions of keeping the people's vehicles, and they're too young or too criminal to rent on their own, and they get people to rent for them. How is that looked at by the law? Because to me, that then becomes an enterprise, maybe of only two folks, but it's something more than a person standing there, or even if the person had bad intentions to begin with, or rent me a car, didn't intend to bring it back on time, etc., etc. But with two people, with a conversation to commit a crime, it is, to me, in my mind, it has to be something more, and
Well, yes. Okay. Well, he's off the line because he was calling on WhatsApp. But it's an interesting question, and I think what it boils down to is a couple of things. Number one, the average police officer themselves do not know the law. So when you take something to them, they automatically say it's a civil matter. And I see KK saying that the police don't like work, so everything they want to consider a civil matter. I think there is some truth to that. That they shy away from something that may have a civil element, because some things can be both civil and criminal, right? There is that. So I think that definitely to make their lives easier, if they can push it into, oh, it's a civil matter and we don't want anything to do with it, that means that they don't have to investigate, they don't have to take statements, they basically don't have to work. And I do believe that that is the general consensus when it comes to the RCIPS, and this is something that they need to address. Years ago, I don't know if you remember this, caller, but years ago there was an article, I think it was in the Compass, about how the police had gotten involved in a rental dispute, and it was with a tourist and a hotel situation. So the person hadn't paid their bill, and the police got involved and told them that if they weren't paying it, it was theft, it was this criminal act, blah, blah, blah. But that opened a whole Pandora's box of discussion, because other people, mostly locals, were like, hold on a second. If we call the police about a landlord-tenant issue, as soon as they hear landlord and tenant, they're like, oh no, we can't get involved. That's a civil matter. So how are you going to a hotel and talking to a visitor about, oh, they need to pay this bill? Because this is a criminal matter. So where is the line and what's the distinction? And as Mr. Baliki properly said, you need to look at the facts of every single situation, because it really does turn on the facts, right? So one thing you have to prove for theft, and I know you went to law school and got a law degree, as I recall. You didn't get the degree? Okay, but you were at law school for a bit. Yeah, so you probably did criminal law. So you'll know that one of the elements of theft, and it's in this definition in the penal code, is the intent to permanently deprive someone of something that you don't have a legal right to deprive them of. Because there might be some legal reason that would be like a defense or an excuse as why you might have a right to permanently deprive someone of something that they originally owned. Right? So there's always a possibility of turning on the facts, but you have to show intent. So even I'll use myself as a perfect example. When the police said that I tried to steal this woman's dog, right? Remember way back in 2009, I think it was, right? They were alleging that I tried to steal this dog. I mean, I thought the whole thing was laughable, except I was in court, like facing a real charge. I'm like, what the hell is this? It got thrown out because the judge said this is ridiculous. But I had done everything possible to try to find the owner of the dog. So I advertised it, Facebook, BBM Messenger.
I remember that part.
Yeah, I went to the vet. Like, I counted 8 things that I had done, active steps, to try to locate the owner of the dog. More importantly, when the owner came forward and said, oh, I think that's my dog, and she lives across the street, I'm like, are you kidding me? And I said to her, I said, okay. I said, no problem. Come and get your dog. So even at that late stage, I wasn't trying to keep her dog. You know, I was like, come and get your dog. It was when I tried to present her with bills for the dog and she didn't want to pay them that I was like,
I remember that, yeah.
"Mhm." But, you know, just to show you how important the details are, as they say, the devil's in the details, you know, the prosecution tried to build this case, right? So one of the things that they said demonstrated my intent to permanently keep the dog was that I had the dog microchipped. And I argued in court, I'm like, that doesn't show intent to permanently keep a dog. That's just what responsible owners do. So that if something happens to this dog, you can identify that this dog has been microchipped, you know, because they're like, oh, she had the dog groomed. I'm like, well, I had the dog groomed because I had to come in my house. Like, I can't have a dog, you know, smelling like poop in my house and looking like a crazy dog. You know, I needed to have it groomed. Like, those were things that responsible pet owners did. And that didn't equate to intent. So there's always a level of interpretation, obviously, when it comes to the law. And that's why when somebody gets on the stand and they tell a story, there has to be an element of, do I believe them? If it's a jury sitting there, they're going to be looking at you. And jury trials are very, very unpredictable. Because sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, this person is lying. But yet they're able to convince a jury of their peers that their version of the story is accurate.
And
Yeah.
the devil is in the details of your peers. Really,
Yeah.
if it was I solidly and 100% of jury of your peers, you know, some of our peers are like us, don't understand too much.
Yeah. I
And I
mean,
think that's where we lose
it's a
a lot of
chance.
cases,
Yeah,
actually.
it's a chance that you take. And I have seen the prosecution lose cases, to be honest, that I was really surprised at, except that once you understand human nature, you get it. Like there was the one with the taxi cab driver that was alleged to have assaulted the woman, right? And yeah, so I think that was last year, maybe the year before. But I was shocked that the prosecution lost that case, except when I looked at the jurors, Caymanian faces, the taxi guy, a Caymanian guy, and I think it was one of those things, the victim, an English woman, and it was one of those things where the Caymanians were like, oh, we're going to hold rank with our Caymanian young man because maybe she is lying against him. Maybe she really did want him. And, you know, and I was like, I found it a very difficult case to understand, except human emotions get involved, even as jurors. I don't know how they made this man walk. And of course, I'm sitting there also knowing a little bit extra about him and about, okay, after the story went public, you had all these young girls saying, oh my God, he is a predator. He's done this, he's done that. The jurors don't get to know that information. And more importantly, none of that is actually permissible in most instances to be put forward as evidence, right? It is just done. This is what happened in this particular case. She gave evidence. Do you believe her version of events? I mean, his attorney and himself even went as far as attacking her and claiming that she was a drug addict and all this stuff. I'm like, how the hell do you come to those types of conclusions in a half an hour drive, you know, when you a taxi, when you're taking someone home? I can't remember if they were even permitted to know that he did not even have a taxi license, that he was moonlighting and using his mother's, because, you know, the court tries to be balanced. Like, they don't want the jury to unfairly judge someone because they've done something else in their life. You know what I mean? So a lot of times jurors are not even permitted to know about other ongoing cases or allegations against an individual. And it's worth really considering when you're called for jury duty to think carefully about what your responsibilities are. Yeah. So there you have it.
I just wonder about that when we sit down and plan, what that would be, because it sounds like some sort of conspiracy to me.
Yeah. I think that just based on what I've seen from the criminal justice system is they don't use conspiracies as often to charge someone with an offense, except when probably nothing else will work. You know, so take, for example, the gambling law. You know, it's very minimal. It's like a $10 fine or something ridiculous if you get caught with gambling. So there's a big case that's coming up. I don't know if the case has started yet, but I do know that they were doing jury. They're picking the jury selection with this Mr. Watler guy, right? Big, everybody knows him in Cayman, allegedly to be a big time gambler. If they charge him under the gambling law, he'd be paying like a $50 fine and getting a slap on the wrist. So what they have done is they have built a case around conspiracy to commit, you know? So it's a conspiracy to
Is that what they call being concerned?
I think that's a slightly different offense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now keep in mind, folks, I'm no lawyer. I just woke up and had a cup of coffee and a mug that said I went to law school. So, you know, that's why I appreciate people like Mr. Belika and other attorneys who want to call into the program, because sometimes people do kind of have these questions. But yeah, they go after the conspiracy. I feel like when they can't get you anything else, it's kind of like the RICO Act in the US. You know, when the gangsters back in the day were bootlegging and doing all kind of stuff, and they couldn't get them in anything else, they always went, notice to how they did it, right? They always went to the finances. Like, oh, wait a minute. Yes. You have $1 million house, but according to your legit job, you only make $60,000 a year. How can that be? And so they went after the whole income tax, you know, fraud or whatever charge or RICO, whatever they could get them on, even if it wasn't
a chop in the bush crime. You was involved with the government, the fraud in the government at that point.
Exactly. And they always made sure that those offenses had a lot of teeth, so that when they sent you away for an income tax evasion or whatever, you know, it was still 25 years in jail. So they were still going to get you for the long term, right? So thank you so much, caller. Very engaging conversation. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, honey. All right. So Damien says, what are the limitations? For criminal stuff, I'll have to double check. Belika, do you know offhand? Because there is a statute of limitation on most offenses, not necessarily all. So some things like murder, I don't think have a statute of limitation. But for criminal offenses, I don't know, like for theft, what it would be. I think it's more of when the person becomes aware that the theft has occurred, then they have a positive duty to act to do something about it. So speaking of theft, let me tell you guys this now. So I requested a court file well over a week ago. Sometimes they take a while. And I am looking at a case with a young lady by the name of Stephanie St. John. She's coming up for trial next month. And I wanted to get the details on what this was all about, right? So, you know, we can request court files and we sit there and read. Child, I felt like I was reading a Lifetime movie script. That's how crazy this was. So I don't want to go into any details about it right now because I want to see what actual evidence comes out in court. But there's a lot of statements. And this is a theft case. And there's an allegation that this woman stole. She's got 8 charges. Everything from theft to oh gosh, what's the deception one called again? Let me look at the penal code. Exact deception. Obtaining property by deception, which is basically theft, but it's slightly different. And false accounting. So all these things are under part, I think it's 9 of the penal code, which has to do with offenses relating to property. So she has a section 247, which is obtaining property by deception. There's a couple of those. There's I think 1 false accounting, so section 255 offense, and then theft, which is section 241 of the penal code. Honey child, let's just say that she was very, very busy, if you believe the allegations against her. Now, why you guys will find this story interesting, and like I said, I don't want to go into too much detail because if it's a jury trial, we don't want her and her lawyers jumping up saying, oh, Sandy was talking about this on air, so now she's been prejudiced and she can't find a jury. She was living a very, very interesting lifestyle while allegedly stealing a lot of money from people. So let's just park the conversation there, but we're going to circle back to her. It's quite an interesting case. And, you know, some cases are more interesting than others for different reasons. And this one had me, child, I was down. That's why I said, when I said Darlene, the most I could do was just roll my eyes at her, but I had to keep reading. So this one had me down in, I was like, Turning the pages, taking my notes, because I got to take notes so I get everything accurate and try to understand. And there were so many statements and so many allegations. I was like, oh my God, she said this to this person. I'm like, oh my gosh, let me write this down so I can get it right. The other case that has been brought to my attention is one that I really don't even want to deal with, but I have an obligation. I'm here not for my own entertainment, but for perhaps some of your entertainment, and to talk about what you guys want to hear. So this one is a bit of a shocker. So there is a Miss Cayman contestant who is in court. She was supposed to actually have a trial yesterday. The interesting thing about it is I did not, I knew that she'd had some stuff because we reported on her before, but I didn't know that she still had something ongoing, like a trial. I thought most of her stuff was kind of already dealt with and she'd passed that junction of everything. So that's actually not the case, because what has happened is more stuff has come up. And in fact, there are 6 new charges. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to show you guys here. So there's 6 new charges relating to this young lady that were supposed to start. The trial was supposed to start yesterday, but the police actually, one of the police officers was out sick. So the trial got postponed now until October. And when I looked at the date on these and I saw that it was it said, charges for 2022, I thought, wait a minute, that can't be the situations that happened in 2018 and 2019, although sometimes it can take a while for things to come to court. These are all new charges. So everything from 2 charges of common assault, damage to property, 2 charges of that, disorderly conduct at a police station, and assaulting a police. And this young lady is a Miss Cayman contestant. So, of course, now the question becomes, what sort of standards does the Miss Cayman committee have in place for contestants? And so I've reached out to them, and what they have said is their standard is that you have no conviction. So if you can produce a clean record, that is enough for them. And everybody else is like, that doesn't make any sense. Because if you are actively in court with charges, of course you're not going to have a conviction. So I'm waiting on the file. I've requested the file because this story is a lot more interesting, because apparently this isn't her first rodeo in court. And I want to get all the facts before we really take a deep dive into what's going on here. So I will, hopefully next week, be in a position to circle back with the actual facts. But yesterday it was like I had a feverish pitch of people messaging me. How is this young lady even permitted to be in this contest when she's in court on trial for things like assaulting a police officer? It's a valid question, and one which next week we're going to really dig, once we have all the facts of her situation, we're going to dig into a little bit further. Trust me when I tell you that it gives me no degree of pleasure whatsoever to talk about our young people who keep finding themselves in certain situations. But, I have an obligation. We cover the news. We cover all sorts of cases. And like I said, I've had numerous people reach out to me and they say, what is this? Can you tell us what's going on here? Some people want to argue that, we don't want to give young people a chance. Like, you never get to, somebody said to me yesterday, oh, Caymanians are so disgusting. Y'all never give people a second chance to redeem themselves and to do better. And I'm thinking, I don't know that that's actually the situation here. And in fact, I hear the sentiment and I understand it up to a point, but I also believe that Cayman is probably one of the most forgiving places. I really do believe that. Like, I've seen people who do horrendous things and then they walk around the community like, they just want a medal. They just got out of jail. and they walk around telling people that they were off to university, and you're like, oh yeah, she was getting a degree in basket weaving at Fairbanks Prison or whatever, her Majesty's Palace, you know? So I feel like maybe we're judgmental, like when we are kind of talking one-on-one with each other, but I feel like people do get second chances a lot of times in this community as well, but you can only get a second chance when you properly cleaned up the mess, right? You can't still be in the middle of the mess and expect people to just forget it, or you can't keep doing it over and over and over again and say, well, you know, y'all need to forgive me because that's just how it works. Because that isn't how it works. Even the courts have a limit. You know, when you're in case number 3 and 4 and 5, the court is like, listen, now we have been more than lenient with you. We've forgiven you on more than one occasion. Now your behind is going to be going to jail. And it's as simple as that. You know, I can't have 5 DUIs and keep begging the court to please forgive me because I got problems. The court's going to be like, yeah, you got problems. All right. You need to probably go to Alcoholics Anonymous. But in addition to that, we're sending you to jail. Sorry. We're taking your license. There will be consequences. KK says, how do they run from Miss Keyman while they have a case going on, etc.? That's silly. Malika, thank you so much. Section 78 of the CPC, which is the Criminal Procedure Code, says that you get 6 months for summary offenses. And he says, yes, you're right. It depends on the date of the knowledge of the facts. Generally, there's no limit for indictable offenses. So indictable means that it's going to grand court. Damien is asking, is that question asked on the application? And if any information is found in breach, then the committee has the right to take them from competition. So I think what I'm probably learning is that the committee needs to tighten up the requirements. They're asking some questions, but they probably need to ask that one specifically. Do you have an active court case, or have you been charged with anything? Because of course you can be charged with something and not yet found guilty. And I mean, there are extremes to this, right? Traffic offenses, I think they pretty much ignore. There's, you know, they're not considered that big of a deal. But say, for example, I'm charged, we've seen people charged with murder or serious gun offenses, and they are permitted bail and they're walking around and, you know, they don't yet have a conviction. Does that mean that that's someone that you would want running in a competition like a Miss Cayman? Probably not. Yeah. So Zambula, we'll talk about it a bit more next week. But there is this question as well, that if someone has a mental health issue, let's just have a serious moment for a second here, right? If someone has a mental health issue, do you want to say to that person, you can't run for a competition? Maybe, and what do you mean by mental health? So, I mean, certainly you can't preclude someone because they suffer from depression, or maybe even if they're bipolar, can you say, oh, you can't run? We're looking for perfection here. I mean, you can't really be looking for perfection either, right? But is there a point when you say, ooh, this person, even for their own mental health safety, that they probably shouldn't be running for certain competitions? Because my God, if they win and if they have to go abroad and they're competing with all these other women, and, you know, these women are tough as nails, and, you know, I don't know how nice they are at competitions, but maybe they pretty shame each other. I don't know. Like, oh, you've got too much acne in your back. You know, when you're off at Miss Universe, are the people that we're sending over, do they have the proper mental strength and agility to be able to work in these situations? And if they don't, is that something that the Miss Cayman committee should also be thinking about? Because the last thing you would want is for one of our contestants to go abroad and have some sort of a breakdown. Because Jesus, what then? How embarrassing would that be for us? Or worse, if the person injured themselves in some way. These are things y'all need to be thinking about. I'm just saying. Zambula says y'all need to do better, Miss Cayman Islands Universe. Explain what she would do for Cayman if she's in court for that currently. Janelle I'm not sure if I'm getting that name right. It says, I don't understand. The Miss Cayman committee should have intensely vetted these ladies. How embarrassing. Plus, it must be embarrassing if someone of that caliber progressed through the competition. And, you never know who's going to win. So I think that's why you have proper vetting at the beginning. Anthony asked the question, so what happens if she wins? Goes on to represent us on the world stage and is subsequently convicted. Then they're going to have to strip her of her title, which is a further embarrassment to her and everybody else. And this is why I'm thinking, I don't know why she would decide to run right now anyway. Like, to me, that speaks volumes to even her mental state, because you're in court and you have an active court case. Why would you run? I mean, if that was me, I would wait until it's all done and dusted and over, and then maybe run next year when things have kind of settled down a little bit. So it is really, really bizarre. And I think it demonstrates a lack of proper judgment, even on the part of the contestant. That's just my opinion. KK says, because the committee is slack, once you're in court, you should not partake. Janelle says, any ladies that are allowed to enter the competition should be immaculate, squeaky clean, role models, untainted. Therefore, if you have any intention of entering a competition such as this, walk a tight line. And, the committee is presented with all sorts of stuff, Janelle. So let me give you an example. Say, for example, and I think this is part of the problem. I don't know if the pool of beautiful women, like physically, they consider themselves attractive, and want to be in a pageant is so small that you kind of have to just take what you get, okay? Because they have gotten young ladies who have had a track record that is, although they have no convictions and they may not have necessarily been in court, things surface about them, videos of them in orgies with 5 different men and all sorts of stuff. And so the question does become, at what point do you say, okay, we can't take those things into consideration because maybe we'd only have 2 contestants. Maybe this is the reality of what the Miss Cayman committee is actually facing. And so when that information is brought forward to the committee, they're less likely to look at it because they just want to have a pageant with 8 ladies. Even if she is a whore on wheels, they're like, hey, we can't take that into consideration. Even if they have video evidence of these sexcapades, there's like, yeah, we can't take that into consideration. But yet we've seen this so-called morality clause in pageants executed before. The most famous one that comes to mind was Vanessa Williams. Absolutely beautiful young lady, amazing voice that we discovered afterwards. I think in a way, them stripping her of her Miss Universe talent allowed her to explore her singing career and her acting career. And we got to see that part of her. And she's actually an amazing woman. But, when she was a young lady, before she won the pageant, she posed naked. I think it was topless. I don't think it was completely naked, but topless or whatever, for some photos. And remember that, was she Miss USA or Miss America? I can't remember which one, but they pulled her title, her crown from her after she had won. And so there is an understanding in most pageants around the world that there is a morality clause in there where if you do certain things and there's evidence of it, then you're no longer, as I think it was KK and others have said, you're no longer a role model for anybody, Janelle. And so they will pull your crown and you'll be, dethroned, which has got to be so embarrassing. And we've had pageant winners here who almost got dethroned because of bad behavior. I'm trying to remember if we actually had one that was dethroned. I know there was one in particular. Oh God, she was like doing the most. There were complaints left, right, and center about her. And I'm trying to remember what they ever did with her. I know she got a lot of warnings. But of course, no one wants to take the tough decisions in Cayman and dethrone someone, even when they probably should. The Miss Cayman committee has been the same committee for a really long time. And there are a lot of people who argue that maybe the committee needs a bit of reshuffling and it should be reshuffled every so often in any event. Dawn says, good morning, Sandy. She's trying to change her life. But Dawn, if someone is really trying to change their life, is there no degree of accountability that comes with that? Do you not deal with the consequences of your behavior first? Yes, you're actively trying to change your life. That's great. But you still have this outstanding thing, which is actually quite recent. The court date on it is 2022. So it's a recent incident. So you can't just jump up today and be like, okay, yesterday I murdered somebody and now I want to change my life. So y'all just ignore what I did yesterday. There still has to be consequences with that. And part of changing your life is accepting that, okay, I did wrong. I've wronged people. I need to take full responsibility for that. No excuses. And, asking people can you forgive me? And let's just move on. That's part of a real change. I mean, I don't know what kind of change she's undergoing, but, the court has already had mercy on her on at least 2 other occasions. Whether or not she will have that kind of luck a 3rd time with the court is yet to be seen. So KK says you forgive them and they repeat the same BS. Tell me why you should keep forgiving them. Marshall says, yep, you're right about that. Cayman is a very forgiving place. I've known of criminals who've gone to prison and get a better job when they come out. Not like in other countries where if you went to prison, you had a hard time getting a job. And I mean, it's certainly oftentimes dependent exactly who you are, right? Damien says, well, check this out. Exactly when people run for president, they can win. I mean, there's no criteria apparently for running for elected office, by the way, really. In this jurisdiction they are, but in the United States of America, not much. You need to be an American. And that's about it. All right. So, let's talk about landlords here in a second. Marshall says, even if she's not convicted, she shouldn't be running for Miss Cayman with her unruly behavior. Commended for that. So Janelle says, okay, she's commended for that. However, unfortunately, this is not a competition for her. This is just a local competition. She'll be representing your islands on an international platform. Good morning to Wayne. Wayne says, this is so true. Good morning, Miss Darlene. Says that maybe that contestant is a contestant and has the highest chance of being our next Miss Cayman. And that will be sad because the Cayman Islands can never get anything or win Miss World ever. And Cayman has some of the most beautiful women, especially from the most impoverished homes in the Cayman Islands. We do? I don't think most of the Miss Caymans come from impoverished homes at all. But let me say this. Good morning to Lulu. I think that we, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the person who was placed the highest ever in an international beauty competition was actually Miss Teresa Lewis Pitcairn. And I think she won best legs at, I can't remember if it was a Miss World or Miss Universe competition. And she kind of got in the top, Teresa, you gotta help me out here. Top 15, top 10. She's placed the highest to my recollection, right? So, and that was a long time ago. I think you have to understand that the pageant world is full of a lot of politics. On the international stage, especially. And there are things that our girls would never do to be able to compete. Like, listen, some countries groom girls from when they're like 5 years old or younger, as you've seen all these pageant reality shows, to become little Miss this and little Miss that and pageant queens. And, they have a lifelong grooming process that our girls do not undergo. And so it is from the onset a very uneven playing field. So our girls, we might think they're beautiful and they're pretty. And then, these other girls, once they're made up and they have a couple ribs removed and all this kind of stuff, it's an unrealistic beauty standard that cannot be reached. Sometimes the definition of beauty for these pageants shifts a little bit. So remember, for a number of years, Miss India was always placing in the top 10 and the top 5 because everybody's like, oh, that version of beauty with the black, long, beautiful flowing hair and the little bit of a darker complexion and whatever, that was beautiful. We saw a couple of years ago when Miss Jamaica, she was in the top 5. She placed really well. That particular year, it was all about the natural hair. So women of color who had like the froze and the natural hair and were rocking it on stage, they did really well that particular year. So I feel like beauty changes. Like, it's no longer just the blonde hair and the blue eyes that can win a competition. It's some of the other more, exotic looking women that have done well. When you're up against 80, 90 other countries, it's difficult for K-Man to even get 10 seconds on screen. I'm not saying that anything's impossible, but I think we need to be realistic about, why we're doing pageants. I don't think we're really doing them thinking that we're ever going to win, because we're not big players in all of this, right? So the chances of us ever placing really high is slim to none. They say this is character building. We're helping these young ladies have an experience of being able to go overseas and learn how to walk in super high heels and, meeting people from different places in the world. That's worth the experience, I guess. Does she still get a brand new car? I don't even know anymore. But, she used to get a scholarship. She used to get a brand new car. And it certainly opened up opportunities for a particular young lady to be able to take advantage of those things, right? Is that worth it? Especially knowing that you will never place, most likely? I don't know. Y'all need to decide. El Rey says the committee just needs to hire CMR to do the background checks. Oh my God, Damien, you're so horrible. He says maybe that could be a pageant and car show, whores and wheels, all in one. Miss Sue says that they should have never split the two pageants up, much better when it was only one. Well, it's not that they split it. It's just that, again, it didn't make any sense for the government to pay to send a young lady to two pageants. And so the Miss World one was seen as less desirable. And so they gave up the franchise because they have to pay, by the way. It's like pay to play. They have to pay to participate in things like Miss World and Miss Universe. And so they gave that up and somebody else grabbed it. So Natasha says Vanessa's pictures were posted after she won as Playboy, which would make more money. Yeah, I kind of think that she took the photos beforehand, obviously, and they had them. And then, yes, they kind of took advantage of the situation, saying, oh, look, we have the pictures of Miss, I think she was Miss America. I can't remember now. Marshall says that they also stripped Michelle Garcia of her title. Jonathan says it's hard to find perfect women with the beauty and the brains, so I judge them by their B. I don't know what that could be bonky. I don't know what you blanked it out for. And KK's reminding us of the controversy with Tony Chisholm. Yeah, she was the young lady I was thinking of. Did she ever get dethroned, or were they just warning her? Because I remember the swirl of gossip around her. That was before Mile Road existed, child, because she would have been all over Mile Road otherwise. So Wayne says that Cayman is a loving place and it's good when people get a chance. It's just for them not to take advantage of it. I love Cayman. Thank you. El Rey says Teresa placed in the top 15. Thank you for confirming. And Damien says, yes, it is. It's all geopolitical or under the table deals. And I think Cayman is just not even at that table. We're just not there. All right, folks. So I'm so glad that at least the stream we're going strong here, folks. So as they say, nothing beats a failure but a trial. And we were the little train that could this morning. Can the T's enter Miss World now also? What's the T's? So Miss Sue says, yes, they still get a lot of things in pageant. Morning to Scott. Wayne says, I think it is possible for someone to win, but the committee have to have new people or change it and focus on what's going to make the difference with Miss Cayman. Good morning, Anthony. Is the ministry in charge of the pageant? So the Ministry of Tourism isn't really in charge of the pageant, but the committee falls under them. So I think, again, it's one of those government committees that is appointed by government. And so, it is what it is. All right. So before we move on, so next week I should have some additional information on that after I've said all this. So next, yesterday we had, I feel like Thursday should be like our consumer day. We were talking about some consumer issues. If like yesterday, had an issue with a bad paymaster, people who just not doing what they should be doing. We'll focus on that like on a Thursday. Today is normally mail day. We'll read your questions and go through them, and we'll deal with the landlord one here in a second. But let me say this. Next week, what I believe will be the discussion is we have some people, and I'm putting this out there in case you know someone who falls into this category, call into the program. We're going to make a show of it. So we have some people who are having an issue with a gentleman who has a shipping service to Jamaica. So he'll take your goods from Cayman, ship them to Jamaica, except they seem to go in this virtual hole somewhere in the universe. It's like a parallel universe, and they never get delivered. So stuff was sent from December of last year to Jamaica, and it still has not arrived as yet. So he'll be featured next week, Thursday. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Sandra. First
Hi.
time caller on the program.
Oh, thank you so
I
much.
have an issue. Hope you can shed some light or give me some help in with it. From last year, November, I paid one of these guys. His name is Rowan Galzera.
Oh my God. Listen.
To ship down some stuff for me.
Miss.
He do it in two. He charged me $1,000.
Miss.
Yes.
I literally, either I'm psychic or you're psychic, but I was just talking about him. Did you hear me say this about this guy shipping stuff from December? I just said it before I took your call. So this guy is a problem. And what I want to do though, I'm going to ask you to hold on because I know that there's more than one victim out there. So next week, Thursday, we're going to focus on him. So I want you to call back on Thursday, get all your stuff together.
Okay.
And I reached out to another gentleman yesterday and I said, okay, it's now July and people sent stuff from November, December, and they've not received their goods in Jamaica as yet. So he will be on our Consumer Thursday. He will be the person that will be highlighted. So hold on to this until Thursday. And then we're gonna put it together. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, my
I
dear.
will.
Okay, good.
Okay. Have a blessed day.
You too.
Thank you.
All righty. Well, she must be psychic or I'm psychic or something because literally that's what we were just talking about. It's him. Ooh, we're gonna feature him next week, Thursday. So y'all tune in for that hot mess. It's a lot of victims. And so, one of the things that I want us to ensure that we're doing is not just warning you about who's out there victimizing you, because it's important to stay away from these people, but also to let you know what recourse you have, if any. Like, what can you do once you've been taken advantage of? So, it's crazy, right? George is asking what we can do about marriages of convenience. God, we've talked about that so many. What we can do is Caymanians can grow some common sense. Because nobody can't take advantage of you in that sense unless you allow them to do so. And our people are stupid enough to allow people to take advantage of us. And it runs the gamut. Old men, young men in between, old women, younger women. So, we need to be the solution as it relates to that. Landlords and tenants. All right. Someone says, what is the purpose of beauty pageants? It reminds me of farmers pulling out their prize cows like agriculture shows. Also, I think it's a form of child abuse and exposure when you start them when they're so young. So somebody says, for Christ's sake, if you have that video, send it to me now. Oh, the video with the 5 people having a sexcapade. They say the stream hasn't skipped a beat yet on YouTube. That's good to know. Another person says that she needs to come out of the pageant. She's always out there fighting like Mortal Kombat fighter. There are women who should be examples to younger ladies to inspire them and attract them to the pageant. She's a poor example, in my opinion. It would most definitely not want any younger daughter to look up to her. And in terms of Tony Chisholm, she was constantly being warned. A mess. So to confirm, somebody sent me the thing about Teresa. So Teresa Lewis, now Lewis Pitcairn, represented the Cayman Islands in Miss World in 1982. That was a long time ago. I was just a little girl. She placed in the top 15 that year, the first and only so far that the Cayman Islands has placed in a semifinals in any international pageant. She also was named Miss Personality by her fellow contestants. And a fun fact is that Teresa was also named Miss Congeniality in the 1982 Miss Universe pageant, which was held in Lima, Peru. There you go. Thanks for the little tidbit on Teresa. So since 1982, how many years is that, y'all? That's a lot. I was even 10 years old then. 1982. We're now in 2022. Okay. 40 years. Cayman has not even placed in any kind of semifinal for either pageant. Wow. I think that if that doesn't bring it home, nothing probably will. Someone makes mention that Al Capone went to jail for mail fraud. Yeah, they would catch him any way that they can. All right. All right, so let's move on. So someone contacted me earlier in the week about these rogue landlords, right? And they said they have a landlord who okay, so they paid the rent over the weekend. I think they were working and then they paid it late on like Saturday or Sunday, whatever. Then the landlord slips a note under the door. And the note under the door essentially said, we're going to be increasing your rent. So they're in a one room, one bathroom, sounds like a little studio. So the landlord says they're going to increase the rent from $900 a month to $1,500 or $1,600. Hold on, let me find the photo now because I got the photo here. So the landlord has decided to increase the rent, I think by $600. At no explanation, no nothing. Didn't even have the courtesy of having the conversation with the person. They just stick a little note under the door. So I thought to myself, who does this, first of all? That's a humongous increase. And I said to him, I said, does your rent include utilities? I'm trying to remember what he told me. I want to say that maybe it does. Yes, it does. But he's like, I'm never even home to use these utilities. Like I work a 12-hour shift. I get in pretty late. And it's just one of those things. So I said to myself, you know what? I bet you. My next logical question was, is your meter, so the he's like in a little section in the back, right? I'm like a separate physical structure. I said, does your meter, do you have a separate meter for your utilities? And he said, no. I said, okay. Now this is starting to make a little bit more sense. Because I believe what the landlord is trying to do is the landlord, I'm just trying to find this, the message that they sent. The landlord is actually probably trying to pay for their own increase in their bills for their mean house, which has nothing to do with the tenant, right? So have it make sense. $600 more in rent. The man paying his rent on time, no issues with paying, nothing of the sort. The landlord just jumps up and says, okay, we're going to increase your rent by that amount. No conversation even, which is like really, really bizarre. So I think to myself, $600 is a lot of money. And what's going up right now is utility bills, I guess inflation. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, why would the landlord raise your rent by $600? Nothing. They've not made any improvements to the facility. They have done zilch, nada, nothing. But yet they can justify increasing your rent that much. And he's living by himself. So I believe that the landlord has in their head that their utility bill has probably gone up. And just because they need to make more money, that's justification enough to raise this man's rent. Now, I think this is a problem. I'm just trying to find his message to me. So yes, I mean this is definitely problematic. Because honestly, what are you supposed to do when a landlord decides to raise your rent almost double? Well, this fella is going to be finding him a new place to stay. That's what he's decided to do. And because we have no legislation, I think he called me on, I'm just trying to see if I can find him here. I think he called me on Tuesday. Because we have no legislation in place, folks, to even, give people options. There's no rent control. There's nothing. And I'm not necessarily saying that there should be rent control, for example, because MK managers would be crying about that too. I think we need to find some way to kind of balance the situation. Right? Because what you have happening is that you've got individuals who feel like they can do anything they want to tenants. Some people are disgusting. They treat tenants really, really poorly. They abuse tenants. They, cut off their utilities on them. They charge them for stuff that they're not even using. This is why one of the things you should do is when you're looking for an apartment, find an apartment that does not have a shared meter. Because you will never, I've seen people like, how am I paying $300 for CUC bill, when it's like 10 of us in different little units and I seem to be paying the bulk of it. There's no fair and equitable way to figure out what you should be paying when you have a meter that is being shared. So your best bet is never to get into the situation where you're having to share a meter. I'm still his message. He actually sent me a copy of the letter. Now it's tough out there because, unfortunately, what you will find happening is that if you don't have an option, and a lot of people don't have a whole lot of options, you're going to get stuck with one of these rogue landlords and not have the ability to do much of anything. You got to try to find someplace else. The saddest thing is the people who are, then he said the landlord made some comment about him driving. I think he drives oh God, I can't remember what the car is now. But it's like an older car. And so the landlord said something like, you seem to have a nice car. So, because you seem to have a nice car, you must be able to pay more money in rent. I don't know. Oh yes, here it is. I found it. So I don't know what the assumptions are, but here's the rental notice. It's dated July the 10th. Dear Mr. So-and-so, this letter advise you formally that your rent is being increased to KYD $1,500 per month as August 10th, 2022. So they've given him a month's notice. This increase does not affect any of our mutual obligations under your lease. Well, I don't know what they think they mean by that. And it says, for example, your rent due dates will remain the same. Oh, okay. They still want their money due on that particular date. We appreciate your tenancy and hope you remain for a long time. Really? So the rent goes from $900 a month to $1,500 a month. And you have the audacity to tell this guy that you hope that he remains as a long-term tenant? Y'all must be crazy. People are asking what size the unit is. So I'm hoping the caller will just call in and tell you guys. Wayne says this is so unfair. El Rey says, I see someone in the near future getting evicted. Well, he's looking for a place. So if y'all know of a place that's reasonable, do reach out. Anthony says some of these landlords rent without contracts and then abuse the fact that it's month to month. So it's in your best interest to have a contract so that you know what the obligations are on the part of both parties. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. I'm the person who sent you the information.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The room is about a 10 by 10 room with a little bathroom and a little closet. And the kitchen is about 8 by 4. It consists of a double bed and a little night table, a little stove and a little fridge. That's it.
Wow. And so going from $900 a month to $1,500. No explanation as to why.
And the thing is, I paid the rent the night before. And I was there until about 8:30 in the morning. And I left there about 8:30. I went back home for something about 9. And there was the note. So there wasn't any confrontation. They didn't say anything the night before. They didn't say anything more than slip it under. And I saw them after. And still nobody said anything to me.
Wow.
$600 can rent a room, and they're adding $600 to a single bedroom without any explanation. They never did anything, nothing to the house, nothing.
So what are you, I know you're looking for a new place, but what do you want people to know, like when they find themselves in situations like this?
These people are using the situation because what happened is that room is hard to get. So because of that, they are using the situation. It's like to hold it against people, like blackmailing people, or they are scamming people. Yeah, in the name of rent. Yeah. So we just have to be careful of these people.
Yeah.
Really, really be careful because, and then what I drive is a Toyota Voxy, and the lady said, "Oh, you have money, you drive a nice car."
And tell us what year your car is, for the record.
It's a 2009.
Wow. So she thinks that by you driving a 2009 Toyota Voxy, I don't even know what that is, but she thinks that that's a nice car, and so that's her justification for increasing your rent for a 13-year-old vehicle.
It's like a little minibus, like they use them like to do car wash and all of that. So
okay.
That's it. And the thing is, I can't park inside. I have to park on the roadside, and there's space inside.
It's crazy. Yeah. Do you think anybody's actually going to pay $1,500 for that space that you're renting?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that shocked me the most is say they increased it by a couple $100, but one lick, $600.
Yeah, I if there was an increase, I would say maybe 200 or maybe the max 3, but 600 can rent another room.
Exactly.
So can you imagine if I was like living in a 2-bedroom, maybe it would be $1,500 more.
My God.
Oh boy, this is crazy.
Beyond. Lately we've been seeing these cases advertised like on EK and stuff where people are sharing like a bed. Is it getting that desperate? Do you think people are getting to the point now where it's like, I'm going to charge you $500 just to sleep in bed with me?
Yes, I think it has reached that, because I know someone who came here and they were searching for some place and they saw a place advertised. And when she went, the gentleman showed her the room and said, "This is what it is." And we have to share all this and all that. So he was renting like a space on his bed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Wow, that's crazy. Well, we wish you the best of luck. If anybody has a decent rental place for this young man, do you care where it is? Are you looking for something in Georgetown, or does it matter?
Right now, I don't care, because I can't afford it. 1,500 from 9 to 15 now. That's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So we're going to keep an ear out for you in case anyone is listening and has a decent place for rent. It's just you by yourself. So hopefully that makes it easier.
It's me alone, and I work like 10, 12 hours sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'm not really home, and it's like every day I work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So hopefully that makes it easier. Because I know once you start adding on dogs and cats and children and a spouse, all of a sudden they come with all these, no, we don't want anybody else. They only want a single person living. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Well, good luck to you, sir. And thank you so much for highlighting this situation, because this is just one of the complaints that we have received this week. And I mean, we get so many, everything from properties not being properly maintained, landlords cutting off the utilities. I mean, it's just atrocious what landlords are able to do with, with complete immunity. Nobody's even paying attention. It's horrible.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Thank you, my dear. I really appreciate it.
And thank you so much for listening.
All right, dear. Bye-bye. So from $900 to $1,500 per month is what they would like to charge this gentleman for his rent. And he's saying, oh, no way. That's too much. So we have another landlord that someone sent in last week. So let me see if I can find this message. Tell you what, some days it's just too much. It's a lot. Now, this landlord, this situation is a little bit different. It seems like this landlord gets a little bit, based on what the tenant says, a little bit belligerent. And there's nothing worse than having a landlord that is crazy. I mean, really. So let me just see. All right, so hold on now. I got the. So this person has said, this is what they sent me. Hold on. So this was June the 25th. We got video evidence on this one. I don't know if I'm going to be able to upload any videos because I'm kind of like not wanting to take a chance. Let me just show you all something here. So I don't want to push my luck with the internet today, because so far we've been pretty good. So this person said, so they sent a video. They said, she said, when I said I'll put it in the garbage again, she said she's going to put it on my car top. She's saying she wouldn't, that she didn't want me to. So this is some dispute about the garbage. She's saying she didn't want me to put my garbage in the garbage because she has to clean it up. This is confusing, but this is the pettiness that goes on with landlords. So they say, when I rented the place, which I paid $900 for, I asked, what are your rules? And she said, just pay your rent on time or 3 days after. Then after 2 weeks, she said AC should run on at 8 and then off at 8. And I have a 1-year-old. She said I should put in someone else's garbage or in my car and go and dump it. So this is a landlord who basically is telling you that you can't access the garbage bin at the facility. I don't even understand this. This is weird. So this young lady has provided video footage, but like I said, I don't think with our internet issues today, we're going to be able to play those. So she goes on then to say, she said that yesterday that I asked for my deposit to leave. That's when she told her to put the garbage in someone else's bin or go to the garbage dump. I don't understand that. And then she goes on to say, and that's the problem. I don't have a kitchen. As she said, she would fix it at the end of May and didn't. I asked for light in my room. She said she's not an electrician. This is a mix-up situation. But it just seems like this particular landlord is taking advantage of a lot of things. You're not an electrician, but surely, you know, you must ensure that things are fixed. So the person's trying to call the police. She says, once again, I called the police for them blowing weed in my baby's face and nothing. They're going to ask me what's the problem. So she's saying that the police are useless. They're refusing to help. Once again, they're always saying it's a civil matter. She says, I'm frustrated. The police are going to ask me where I'm moving to after I'm telling him the man just blew weed on me and my child. And she says, I just need people to be aware of this woman because the police are doing nothing to help. So she sends out a message that says, there, Miss So-and-so, as per my instructions, I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. As per my instructions to you and your roommate, above subject. And the above subject says air condition. All one word. Would you? Okay. I wish to remind you both that the instructions were that the air condition would and should not be turned on before 8 p.m. at night each day and turned off by 8 a.m. in the morning due to the constant increase or rise in electricity consumption. With this letter, I now inform you that today, Sunday, 26th of June, the unit was turned on at approximately 3 p.m. Should this remain the case, a deduction of CI 125 will be deducted from your deposit of $500 to cover the addition electricity usage when you have vacate the apartment on June the 30th. I encourage you, should you not wish for the deduction of 125 to cover the additional usage, I remind to stay within the instructions given to you when you was moving in. So the person replied that we signed no contract with you stating this, and the light is included in the rent. You told us that while we asked for a deposit to leave, please note if any money at all is deducted from my deposit, we will be calling the police again. And then you were told not to come back to my back door or come back to my door. Oh, what a mess. So it's a little bit weird because, all right, on the one hand, landlords are, you can say, right, landlords are struggling with increased utilities. folks, stop renting from people, because what has happened here is they did not bother to go through planning to convert their homes into all these rental units. That's why they don't have a separate meter, right? And planning is partly to blame for this, because they're allowing these fly-by-night rental accommodations to be set up with no proper metering system in place, nothing. And then you go in there to share with someone, and they're unfairly putting the burden on a lot of the tenants in terms of who is actually paying for the utility part of it. So she starts using it at 3 p.m. That automatically adds $125 more to her monthly bill. How does the landlord know that? It is impossible for the landlord to have that information, right? They randomly make stuff up. And absolutely, again, none of it makes any sense. I'm going to see if this young lady is able to come on and explain some of in her own words, because I'm reading these letters and they got my head hurting. So then the landlord responded, "We shall see on the 30th, and the rules for the AC is 9 p.m. till 8 a.m. I thought it was 8 to 8. So now it's gone to 9 p.m. What the hell? Mind you, the letter says 8 p.m., I'm trying to get a good look at the letter. So the letter said 8 p.m. and then in the WhatsApp conversation, they changed it to 9 p.m. You see the foolishness that people are dealing with? The next one says, I'm sure the police talk to you. Please do not talk to me unless it's about my deposit and you wanted to come look at your place. Otherwise, leave me alone. You just threaten a logic worker that has nothing to do with you or your place. So please leave my people alone. And me, you're verbally aggressive and pushing me to anger. I called the police to deal with you. So please leave me alone. I don't need any toxic energy around my 1-year-old child. The person responds, and this is not a landlord speaking, and he told you not to pass my way, making slurs, and you are to vacate before receiving your deposit. So when you leave, we will inspect the apartment. You had over the, what is this? Over the J-E-Y, J? I don't know what that means. That you had over the J? I don't know. I have no clue what that's supposed to be. And I hand over the deposit, which is in Miss Down's name, your roommate, as I have no contract with you. I have not threatened no one from Logic. I communicated my opinion to a Logic representative by phone. It just goes on and on. It's a hot mess, right? At one point, the landlord says, "You're too young to be so stupid." I'm not sure that makes sense, though, because most young people are, because of their age, might be stupid. They don't have the benefit experience. Then she says, you is fool. You is fool, is karma is real. Well, the tenant calls her. She says, "You old witch. Stop texting my phone. Go argue with your man and learn to spell. You too old to be so dunce." Oh my God. That next message says, "That what reaching you now because you nafa de me for like you thought." Oh my God, I can't deal with this one. Who, which, me, you. He is not my man. We are married. So does not make him your man? Wait, what the hell does that mean? You sign enough. You can't stay free. It's making my head hurt. But you don't have to stay, but when you leave, you get your deposit. I get my key. No worries. Then she continues, and I'm glad you didn't sign any. That's in relation to that she doesn't even have a contract. You started it. I hasn't forgot you, but you made me remember. So the tenant says, dunce. Woman, I don't know nothing you just said. Just stop texting me now. And no, you don't know me. I'm a nice person, and I'm not going to make you drag me to your level, you witch. I'll move in August. Since as you won't give me my money, now fix your place. It just is ridiculous. No, sir. I don't even know what to say. This person says renters' rights still depend on 19th century legislation. Remember the time when I told you I was living Bodden Town and they paid their rent 1 month in advance. Turn around. If you're 1 day late fee, it's $50 each day. Shaking my head, people told them they needed to get the meter sorted so they would have shut them down, and they didn't inform anyone. And they still took the light bill from us the very next day the lights were cut, and they wouldn't give us back our money. So these are some of the issues, folks, that people are having to deal with on a regular basis. It's really quite sad, to be honest. But this is what it is. Here's another story. A close friend of mine was told by her landlord in the beginning of July that her rent has increased from $1,050 to $1,900. No typo. How are people justifying these rental increases? What is it? What exactly is it based on? I'm just not understanding. So, Darlene says, Sandy, there's no laws in place. That's part of the problem. Aliana says it's simple, move and find somewhere else. But Aliano, that in and of itself isn't that simple. Because I think what is starting to happen is you're starting to have more bad landlords than good landlords. And so it's not easy to go out there and find a place that's reasonable, that the landlord isn't rogue and disgusting and trying to abuse you, and that, you don't have all these shared meters that don't even make any sense. So Damien says that's why we need housing laws and requirements and how much a landlord can demand or market value for rent. I'm not necessarily one for market control. And I think that at some point there has to be some other way of like regulating the market, right? So if you go from paying $1,000 a month to your landlord saying, oh yeah, your rent has just increased to $1,900, how do you justify that percentage increase based on what? And because it is more of a landlord's market than it is a renter's market, you find that it's very, very difficult for people to, just jump up and find some place the next day sort of thing. It is challenging. And it's even more challenging, folks, if you have children, if you have pets. One of the reasons, I'm going to tell you all this, one of the reasons when I moved to Cayman that I decided to buy a place, right? Got an apartment, got a mortgage. is because as a rentor, what I found in particular, as it related to, my dogs, no one wanted to rent with dogs. They had so many excuses. Oh, you're going to pay this. I mean, you don't mind paying an additional deposit because in the States, we were used to that. You paid an additional deposit, a pet deposit that was reasonable. But here it was just ridiculous. And so I said, this isn't going to work. I don't even have any kids, just dogs. And everybody's like, oh no, we can't take you with dogs. We can't. I'm like, whoa. That was the single deciding factor in me getting a mortgage because I could have kept renting. I was like, let me look around a bit more. So I was like, no, this isn't going to work. Get my own place and nobody can say anything to me but my dogs. And it's only progressively gotten worse over the years. I mean, that was the late 1990s or whatever. It has gotten worse since then. You can't have children. What percentage of the population doesn't have children? Now, I get it that there's some tenants who have kids and they come in, they make the people wreck your place and the children wreck your place and the dogs wreck your place. So on the one hand, I can understand why some people are hesitant, but that is why you secure a deposit. And I know some landlords will say, but Sandy, some people wreck the place to the point where the deposit does not even cover the damage that they leave behind. And perhaps, again, you have a proper contract in place that allows you to do regular inspections, like maybe once a quarter, if you've got someone who's there for a while, so that you can catch any damages that potentially happen early on. And when they happen early on, you can say, hey, I'm noticing a pattern here and your deposit is already used up based on this hole in the wall or whatever damage it is that the person is potentially causing to your property. Scott says, what a hassle for the poor guy having to move and find a new place because of a greedy landlord. Damien says Canada is an example to follow. So tell us, what is it that they do in Canada? Flashpoint says this all comes down to supply and demand in a capitalist society. So Aliana says, rent control, no. Because can we get price control for gas or Foster's food control? I bet not. But do you want that? Do you think trying to control the price for everything is going to be the solution? For government to step in and say, oh, you can't charge more than X? If you're a business owner or even a landlord, I bet you understand the challenges of having government do that. But when you have a completely unregulated industry, the rental market, with no protection for tenants mostly, what's the solution? Do we set up a renters board where people can take these types of disputes to and they kind of like flush it out for them? What is it that we do? Damien says if there were laws that wouldn't allow apartments with shared meters to be approved unless it's converted. Yeah, I think that's one thing that planning needs to step up and answer to. Why are shared meters being allowed? And I've seen some bamboozling electrical wiring that made me wonder. Remember last week, Friday, we had Home Gas on here showing how people are jerry-rigging the piping system for their gas tanks, using material that is not approved for that purpose, where basically an odorless substance that can kill you is leaking potentially into your apartment, and outside the apartment, somebody waiting for something to explode. And there's no regulation for that. And people are thinking it's okay to do that probably for their own homes and rental properties. There's no safety regulations. People can do all kind of stuff and you don't know if you're living in a place that's safe. It needs to be reined in. And I think this is something that this government has to spend some serious time on and considering. The previous government had 12 years. Nope, they never fixed it. But we can't just sit back and say, well, they never did it and it'll never get done. At some point, the government has to start. And I get it. They got a long list of things to fix. But I think that this is one of those areas that has got to be given priority. Wayne says, I'm so glad that I watched this live today because I'm planning to come to Cayman to work. So now I know when I'm renting a place, do not do that and make sure I'm skeptic. Well, Wayne, you need to really be on the lookout. Try to have a contract in place. People have all sorts of things. Sometimes they're just renting you a room and you got to share facilities with all sorts of people. It's just a hot mess. But you got to know exactly what it is that you're getting into. And because we have so many like transit and foreign workers, a lot of people don't necessarily mind sharing because they share the expense of everything. The Filipino community would tell you this is something that they do. They will share accommodations. They call it bed sharing, where basically you're renting a bed. But sometimes people who are bed sharing are creating dangerous situations because if you've got 10 people trying to bed share in a very small place, that goes against fire codes, which nobody is enforcing. So planning isn't enforcing it. Nobody. There are areas like Windsor Park that has been so many what were supposed to be single homes have been converted into apartments that now have, oh my God, way more occupancy than the individual structures should have ever had, and way more occupancy than the entire area really should have. And it causes problems, parking congestion, noise pollution, and issues. 911 trying to send in the ambulance service because the roads are lined up with cars on either side because there is no parking in the yard. People don't want to take down gates. They just tell you to park outside the gate. And it causes a lot of problems. So the density of the Windsor Park area is much higher than it was ever intended to be. And that's a problem. Now, if you were in the business of city planning, as some of the people planning are supposed to be experts in, I'm no expert, I'm just saying, you would be able to look at the Windsor Park area, even in terms of population growth and management and services and so on, and really recognize that if it continues on this trend, where people are going to continue whatever single home dwellings are left and convert those, jerry-rig those into apartments, oftentimes at no planning permission or anything else, that you're going to have a problem. So Wayne, here's the thing. In the Cayman Islands, a lot of people have discovered that the rental market is strong, and it has been strong for a really long time. Whether it's Airbnb rentals, local rentals, because we have so many people here in work permits, that they can literally cover their mortgages and then some if they add on something to their house that they rent from people. Now, I'm a funny person. Y'all know me already. I will tell you that I'm a very particular person. And I never want to live around people that would be a tenant. That just isn't like, listen, to me, being a landlord is like a business. And I don't want to be living with people that I do business with, right? So I remember years ago, we were looking at a few places to buy. I found this really nice house in Lookout Garden. I liked it a lot. And one of the things that it had was on the side of the house, it had 2 apartment units like built on. I think we still would have to like do appliances, whatever. They were pretty much done. And then you'd have to do appliances done properly, separate meters and everything. And so, when I was talking to my husband about it, I was like, oh, well, this would be good because, yeah, say you have a mortgage of, I don't know, $2,000, $2,500. You could rent each of these at the time. I think one was a 1-bedroom, the other one was a 2-bedroom. So you could get, at the time, you'd probably be able to get maybe $900 to $1,000 for the 1-bedroom, given the location. And then probably, $1,200, $1,400, maybe $1,500 for the 2-bedroom. Now that's gone through the roof. Now it's probably even more. And I was like, that could probably almost cover your mortgage, maybe help out with insurance. But the more that I thought about it, I'm like, having tenants right up under me. Like, sometimes you don't get the best tenants. Or, these people all up in my business. Like, I want to go out and have a barbecue in the back of my yard and there's a tenants looking at me. The other problem is Lookout Gardens was a little bit too far at the time for me. I was like, oh God, this is more my husband's complaint. He's like, that's an extra 15 to 20 minute commute in the morning, trying to get the baby to school and I was like, oh God, you're right. So we opted not to go that route. But a lot of people, Wayne and others who are listening to the program, who maybe don't live in the Cayman Islands yet, this is good business to add on a unit to the side of your house, or to take one of your, because people actually take their existing structure and split it up and have people renting all over. Instead of them just downsizing because of the cost of everything in Cayman, they will instead prefer to convert their homes. And they don't go to planning. They don't say, this is my intentions. What do I need to do to get permission? They don't do it. They bypass all that and just do it on their own. And then when they get reported to planning, as some of them do, because sometimes they're legitimately building structures that are not even safe to live in. So when all of that happens, then they jump up and they're like, oh, well, planning is trying to keep Caymanians down. When planning is just trying to make sure your place isn't going to catch on fire and kill 10 people that they didn't even know were living in that household. CI Purge says there was a case a while back where the tenant took the landlord to court, and the judge took the decision to be guided by the intent of the landlord and tenant law and ruled in favor of the tenant, even though it isn't enforced yet. That's interesting. And I think that this, correct me if I'm wrong, but that law has been not enforced for a very long time. So Jonathan says it might have nothing to do with the tenant and everything to do with the bank, CUC, water, insurance, food, gas, liquor, medicine, and weed is all going up. It's rough out there. But Jonathan, you can't take, if you're a landlord, right? And this is the problem that I'm telling you that's happening. You cannot take all of your increases in life and place it on a single tenant. And I don't know what this man who's talking about this increase, if other people, if she rents from other people or she has other tenants, So I don't know if that's the case, but you cannot take whatever your increases are in life and say, well, now I intend to put that burden on my tenant. Because how is that fair to the tenant? Stacy says, I hope nobody moves in after the man moves out. Exactly. El Ray says, wow, rent from $900 to $1,500. That's rough and not right. Yvette says, I'm giving away my own then at $675, including bills. Child, Yvette, contact this man. He could be saving some money. I think that there are just people who are greedy and they're trying to make a living off of their rental units instead of saying, okay, this is an investment. And yes, I might be able to cover like some of the bills, whatever, but it's not the situation where you should be living off of the back of your tenants, especially when you just have a few units. Damien says, are they using inflation as an excuse or they're just greedy? I think a lot of times it falls on the side of greed. Kay, good morning. Kay says, good morning. They're raising the rent so high and then telling you that your occupancy is single. So that's a funny thing is they have these exorbitant rates. And then on top of it, they are dictating a lot to you when you're paying that kind of money. Janelle says there will never be a renting board on this island. Too many people in power also have places renting that are way below standards. To be frank, a lot of these places are health hazards just waiting to happen. It's not even funny. Kitchen and bedrooms, bed beside stove. It's ridiculous and simple, obstructing people's human rights. Thank you for the copy of the 2009 landlord and tenant law that is not yet in force. 2009? Why is this not enforced after, what is that, 13 years? Yeah? Why? What's the excuse? I guess we need to ask the PPM why they've never prioritized it. Marshall says that landlord must be out of his damn mind to think that they can raise the rent so high and expect people to stay. Something is seriously wrong with them. Bam says, I-44 live here from when I've been 3, and it's horrible what is happening to people. Yeah, these landlords have no souls. Our own people selling us out. Caymanians can't pay rent. They're pricing out of our country, and Caymanians doing it to each other too. We got to stop this madness. And a lot of the landlords, for the record, are Caymanians. Not all of them. Damien says, or they put twin beds, 2 or 3 in one bedroom, bed spacers. It's sad. Very, very sad. Shanda is shocked. She's like, what? $1,500 for 1 bedroom? It's barely a 1 bedroom given the size that the man has just shared the actual unit is. But yes, $1,500 for that little space. Morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Yep. Good morning, Sandy.
How you doing?
This that rental thing that you're talking about, that I got straight. They're going to the government start to regulate it. You see, the people the tenants, they can't self-regulate. That's most of the things here on this island. The government, and I'm not talking about one government, but particular consecutive governments have left it in the hands of the people that is doing the business to self-regulate, and that could never work. There has to be someone to look after the people, whether the people are here on work permit or the people are local people. It has to be, the buck has to stop with the government. There's no way to put it, because how can we say that the rent isn't justified? It's on high, but everything in Cayman is high. You know what I mean? So we can't just say, well, the landlord is unjustifiably raising the rent. We don't know. That's why they need to be a regulator, like what you have said, to set a price, to say, well, okay, this is the price, is on everything. You know, it's not gonna stop until that happens.
And let's be fair, caller. When you say that, we don't know if that's fair or not, a lot of times that comes down to how the landlords themselves are living. Let me give you an example. I don't like to speak about dead people, but I'm gonna talk about the situation because this is one I'm very familiar with. You guys will remember a couple years ago, we received some complaints here in CMR that some property that Ms. Lucille Barnes had owned was, the tenants were saying she's cutting off the air conditioning during the day. Again, when you have children, this woman had a newborn baby. She was having to go sit in her car with a newborn baby to keep the baby cool because Miss Lucille had cut off the power. Now, what happened is when I went on location, I got to talk to them. She has a number of units, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, whatever. And 99% of those people were NAU clients, right? So if one tenant, again, it's a shared meter situation, if one tenant did not go and get their NAU paperwork sorted out in enough time, so they were late on their rent or they didn't pay, all tenants would be subject to the penalties of that by her shutting off the utilities. She'd shut off water, she'd shut off CUC, and all day you would sit there and not have any utilities. She was also controlling when you can and can't turn off your utilities, which is one of the things that I find so bizarre, that landlords think that they can do that. To me, that's just crazy, right? I'm renting from you. You set your price. So if initially you said it's $1,000 a month and that includes utilities, you should know if that's actually going to cover your utilities. And yes, if the say the CUC bill goes up, you can't be like, oh, I'm going to add on an extra $900 to your rent or an extra $600 to your rent. Like, how does a person justify that sort of a thing? I don't really understand.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying too. Sure,
but,
there are some people that are, some landlords that are taking advantage of the situation. But
listen, let me tell you what I found out, right? So Miss Lucille obviously came to the property and she said, Sandra, you know, I mean, you never had no problems. I don't want you here live streaming from my property, blah, blah, blah. And I said, but Miss Lucille, you know, we got these complaints and whatever. So after the live stream stopped, you know, I had a conversation with Lucille. Listen, we both Georgetowners. We grew up in, well, I didn't grow up in Moringa but Moringa was right next door to where my grandfather's property was. So, you know, I understand we're Georgetowners. There's a certain amount of little respect there and whatever. So Miss Lucille said, oh, you know, these tenants, they're not easy, this, that, and next thing, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, let me try to be fair about the situation. So when she was complaining about the rent not being paid, which is an NAU problem, and that's a whole other situation with NAU, I said to her, but listen, NAU now has the option where you can actually do direct payments, which means that you'll get your money quicker. Because I know when you have to do the check method, they take forever to pay you and whatever. I said, NAU now can put it directly into your bank account. Why isn't that happening? Oh, Sandra, they slack. I don't know. I filled out the paperwork and all now then I get back to me. Well, you know me. I'm like, okay, let me fact check this. I make a couple phone calls and find out that Miss Lucille was being less than honest. She had applied. Now listen to this. She had applied for the direct deposit thing, as she said. However, because she was having financial difficulties with the mortgage on that property, NAU couldn't put money directly into the bank account. They were giving her a check. But people who used to work for NAU call me, but Sandy, I have seen the checks that Miss Lucille will get from government. Yes, she might wait 3 or 4 months, but she's making thousands upon thousands of dollars. And she's crying out, oh, she can't pay her bills. Now stick a pin. She can't pay her bills, but yet she's driving around in a Hummer. She can't pay her bills, but can go and get plastic surgery overseas. She can't pay her bills, but the NAU property, and again, I'm just talking facts. The NAU property has a pool in the middle of it, like it's a big time hotel, when you're renting to NAU clients who can't even swim. It's like sometimes as like landlords and business owners and stuff, right? When we're trying to jack up prices on people and really stick it to the clients, we must make sure that we are being fair and objective in our desire to make a few dollars. That's the point that I'm trying to make. You don't like put it to people just because you're trying to live a lifestyle. You understand what I'm saying? Listen, I'm a small business.
Yeah,
I'm a small business owner, right?
I agree with that.
One business I've had for over 6 years. I have never.
It's not gonna get any better.
Lord have mercy. I've never increased my fee.
Yeah.
Even my customer the other day. Let me give you another example, right? The other day I said to my customers, I said, listen, we have a new streaming box that's coming out on the market. It's going to be more just because I'm having to pay more for it. I don't really make any money on the hardware. I try to recover my cost of shipping, duty, whatever. But I need to know from you guys, we can continue to order the older model, which works perfectly fine for most people. It's not a problem. If you guys want me to start bringing in this new model, this is going to be the slight increase. It's only $25, but it's a slight increase in price to make sure I'm not taking a loss on that item. I even went as far as showing my clients, if you go online from the manufacturer and you order the same box, they are charging you more than what I'm charging. Because I'm not trying to make a killing off of the back of poor people. The only question, because you know my customers trust me, the only question they said, Miss Sandy, is our monthly support fee, does that change? And I said, no. And they said, well, I think we lost the caller. And they said, well, then, you know, we don't mind paying $25 extra, which is a one-time fee for a box that's going to last us 5 years or whatever. It's just, I think people just need to be fair. I have seen retailers. When I first moved back to the Cayman Islands, I was shocked at the price of stuff being marked up all 200%, 300%, 400%. I'm like, why? And in some instances, these were bigger, larger companies. I'm like, What is their buying power? Because they don't go to like a Walmart or whatever, like me and you. They are buying it by the pallet, right? And even if they're buying individual items, some of y'all go to TJ Maxx and you shop for clothes, you open up a clothing store here in Cayman, you know you only paid $12 for that friggin' dress, and you want to charge somebody $60 CI. It's like, what? Now, people started to get smart. They started to price shop. Now, Amazon app has do you all know that if you download the Amazon app on your phone, you can scan any barcode and see if that item is available on Amazon and check the price yourself? I do it all the time. Consumers have gotten smarter. When Price Right first opened up and then cost you less, I was like, oh, praise the Lord. Because now we can start to get better pricing on electronics, on TVs, because some of the other traditional electronic stores who'd been in business were ripping people off left, right, and center. Seriously. Now, on average, you might be paying a 20% difference, which when you consider the difference in the dollar and the import duty and whatever, that's not really that big of a deal to go to Price Right and buy something. Because if you're bringing it in, you've got to consider you're going to pay customs duty, you're going to pay to ship it, heavier goods and stuff. It just didn't make any sense. But all we're asking for, whether it's landlords or regular consumer goods, is for people to try to think about the consumer, to be fair, because they're the same people who, when they have to pay fees, are cussing and complaining, and yet they turn around and don't show that same courtesy to other people. So Linda says that the wages need to go up. That's what Anna should be talking about, and NAE need to do better. My concern with wages going up, Linda, is I've always said this. What percentage of the population would an increase in the minimum wage actually help? Because most people are not making $6 an hour, but we need to know what percentage are, who is it actually helping? Because again, if it's not really helping the Caymanian population, and maybe that's just 80% of the expat population, the ones who are making the wages, a lot of their money's going overseas anyway. So who is an increase in wages going to help? Because here's the other part of that coin that nobody really wants to talk about is you increase wages, you increase the cost of doing business, and you see what people do. They will go up on their prices immediately because they're going to pass that cost on to you. And you can't stop it. So you say, okay, go up on your wages. That means your operating expense for your staff has just increased. You're having to pay more in pension because that's a percentage and all this kind of stuff. You think that the business isn't going to go up on their pricing? Think again. Oh, Alex is asking about the BMW that caught fire yesterday. So we're almost finished with the show here. But yes, there was a car fire in the parking lot at Camana Bay. We didn't get a whole lot of details. I don't know what it is about BMWs, child, but they seem to catch a fire a lot. I don't think you can get me to own a BMW. I don't know what it is, but the car, it looks like an engine fire. When I was looking at it, we were there on the location shortly after they outed it, so we got a lot of good footage. And I don't know, it caught fire, and then the next car next to it got severe damage. That looks like a complete write-off. And ironically, there was a BMW in front of the second car. It was a BMW SUV, like an older model. And the entire front grille, like the headlight melted, the grille was melted. I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. So no indication yet as to the cause of the fire. So folks, listen, the program's going to end here shortly. We can't play our usual outro music because of the internet, but I'm so thankful that we were still able to have a show. So you guys have a fabulous weekend to our Bobo listeners, and we will see you guys for sure, God's willing, on Monday morning. Who's going to the concert this weekend, by the way? I plan to be there. It's Capella. That's on tomorrow. So I'm actually going to be working it. But yeah, I'm going to check it out. Marshall says that some people always be fooled because they don't know what some of these people pay for items overseas and come back to Cayman and make a killing. Well, I think more and more now people do know what's being paid, because again, it's so easy to look it up, right? All right, folks, that's all I got for you. What's happening here in the small store? Advertising products at a cheaper price just to get you in the door. False advertising. Oh, gosh. So we definitely need some consumer protection, whether it's landlord tenancy, whether it's just consumer goods and transactions. To think that we live in a modern society where we have zilch, no consumer protection, just is crazy to me. So again, this has to be an area that the government has got to put on their long list, but try to prioritize it. Yeah. All right, folks, no outro music available, but you guys have a fabulous weekend. We'll see you on Monday morning at 7:30. And hopefully by then the internet will be sorted out and we'll be back to normal. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and have a great day. Great weekend. Be safe. No drinking and driving, please.